and they are also reported in this report, show that there's a huge potential of intra-regional trade liberalization in creating, welfare gains for everyone in the region, especially for least developed and smaller countries. So what has been preventing the exploitation of intra-regional trade, if there are potentials? I think 2 or 3 things which stand out are high cost of trade in the South Asia region. And this is SCAP's work for many years, which has been highlighting how intra-regional trade in South Asia has so high costs. In fact, it is cheaper to trade between South Asia and United States or other North American countries. So the trade costs for applicable to South Asian trade are higher than trading with United States. So I think we need to bring down these trade costs, and that we can do with better connectivity and transport connectivity and facilitation at the borders. So trade facilitation and transport facilitation are 2 very important areas for further work. But there are many other opportunities for regional cooperation besides exploiting the full potential of regional production networking. That is in creating regional public goods for dealing with vulnerabilities, with the shared insecurities like in food and energy, climate change. Yesterday there was a discussion about how we cannot solve the problem of air pollution, for instance, in the region without working with our neighbors. We cannot solve the issue of disaster risk management or disaster risk reduction without cooperating and working with our neighbors. And the SDGs, as I was saying in the beginning. So there are many opportunities for regional cooperation that remain to be exploited, and time has perhaps come to look at all these potentials and move on that path of exploiting these potentials, especially because the external context has changed and SDGs provide to us new set of challenges. So there have been a number of institutional mechanisms for promoting regional cooperation. SAARC is one, BIMSTEC is another. There are many bilateral, trilateral, quadrilateral initiatives. And SCAP as an intergovernmental body covering all these countries as members could be another vehicle, and member states can very well use this alternate option to drive the agenda, because I believe that regional cooperation is far too important an agenda to be left to one single organization which may at times not be living up to its expectations. So with that agenda in mind, we thought of continuing this discussion from yesterday and day before to focus more on regional cooperation in South Asia and how we can accelerate that and exploit its full potential. So we are very grateful that all of you joined us today, despite it being a weekend, and that shows your commitment to the agenda. And we are very honored by the presence of Dr. Kadel, the Vice Chairman of National Planning Commission in Nepal. And you all know Nepal is currently chair of SAARC, and Nepal also provided leadership to BIMSTEC. Very recently, Nepal hosted the BIMSTEC's 4th summit, and so Dr. Kadel has that regional leadership on issues of regional cooperation. And then we are very happy and honored to have SASEPS, a regional policy think tank, as a partner for this. And Professor Deepak Nair is a co-chair of the board of SASEPS. And SASEPS is one organization I also have been very actively engaged with for many years. And RIS, of course, is very important partner. But we are very happy to have our friend Mr. Rajneesh join us from Ministry of Commerce. We were expecting actually the Honorable Commerce and Industry Minister, but and he was very much interested in coming, but his commitments, and we all fully understand, did not allow him to finally join join us. But he is represented very ably by Mr. Rajneesh, and we will listen to him and the thoughts the Commerce Minister would have shared with us. Thank you very much, and I welcome you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for setting the context for the day today. May I now invite Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar, Chairman RIS, for his remarks.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to all of you. His Excellency Dr. Kadel, Professor Deepak Nair, Mr. Rajneesh, my colleague Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, last but not the least, of course, Dr. Nagesh Kumar of S.Cap. I think this is a wonderful initiative, and I'm really delighted on the part of RIS that RIS is part of this. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for making it on a Saturday when you may have had other things to do. I think two unsavory facts about South Asia. One is a study we did a long time ago. My colleague, Mr. V.P. Haran, who was Deputy Permanent Representative, I was with him. He would remember as well. WTO did a study on regional integration and came to the conclusion that the least integrated region economically was South Asia. And I was a bit intrigued, and I thought somewhat inappropriately that sub-Saharan Africa should have got that prize, not South Asia. But I was proved wrong. I was told that sub-Saharan Africa is way better integrated than South Asia. So that is the unsavory fact number one. The unsavory fact number two, if you look at SDG goals, there is one on poverty. And while they talk loosely about abolition of poverty by 2030, which you and I know is impossible, the real target is getting rid of extreme poverty. It's not poverty. Poverty is going to be with us, at least in my lifetime, if not yours. So we are talking extreme poverty. And again, the unsavory fact is that there are only two regions where there is widespread extreme poverty. One is sub-Saharan Africa. The other, no prizes for guessing, South Asia. China has gotten rid of extreme poverty altogether. So we have only two regions, really. So if this doesn't motivate us to cooperate and integrate ourselves regionally in an economic sense, I don't know what else will, frankly. I now teach, as some of you may know, in the Jindal School of International Affairs, and one of the questions that students are smart, they have access to information and material these days, so they ask me, is it something in the DNA of South Asia? Because everybody tells me if China, Taiwan can cooperate economically, and if you look at it rationally, they have more reasons of enmity than even India and Pakistan at one level. So what is it that is in South Asia? There is something which allows consistently for politics to trump economics. This is what we have done. I completely agree with the reasons put forward by Dr. Nagesh Kumar in terms of trade facilitation, the cost of transaction. That is nuts and bolts. I mean, I'm not an economist, you can make out, so I don't want to treat these nuts and bolts with contempt. They are important. But I think there is something else that is happening here. I also get the feeling something may have changed. And here I hope I'm right, because the jury is still out. I think we have now come to the realization, finally, that you can leave politics aside and get on with the job of really dealing with absolutely crucial existential issues like extreme poverty and so on. This is not, I mean, we keep saying the Asian century, but if you're going to have stubborn, extreme poverty in such large numbers, and I have to say this, I think for the achievement of the SDG goal, there's only one country that matters. I say this with the due humility. It's India, frankly. Just as for the achievement of MDG goals, China was the one which mattered in a positive way. So I hope we can do that. And that is why I'm particularly grateful. I don't want to take too much more of your time, except to say that the individual sessions to me are extremely relevant. One which talks of regional economic cooperation. We've been talking about it till the cows come home, but I think it's time we really got on with it. And people who are willing will join, others may not join. I think that's the only way to go forward, frankly, because we really can't allow the region to be held hostage anymore. That's the point I want to make. The second, of course, is transport and energy connectivity, which again is extremely important. And finally, food security, because without agriculture, food security, cooperation in this area, I don't think you can achieve the SDG goal of no hunger either, which again, our region is the most crucial. So I really believe that this session today is of critical significance, and I have no doubt that the discussions today will be able, if not to offer concrete solutions, at least point the way forward. I'd like to wish you all a very good Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom and advice and your emphatic advocacy of regional cooperation. It's my pleasure to now invite Professor Deepak Nair, co-chair of SASEPS, for his remarks.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues on the podium, Dr. Kadel, Dr. Mohan Kumar, Mr. Rajneesh, and our gracious hosts, Dr. Nagesh Kumar and Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi. It's a privilege for me to be here in your midst this morning. On behalf of SASEPS, as its co-chair, I would like to add my word of welcome to all who have found the time and made the effort to be with us this morning. For those who are not familiar with SASEPS, let me simply say that we are a network of partner institutions in South Asia that work at the intersection of research and policy, engaged in providing policy dialogue that is based on research. Our object is to essentially create a meeting space that facilitates interaction, not only amongst policymakers, but also, we hope, the business community and civil society, indeed, a wider constituency of concerned citizens who are committed to the idea and to the cause of South Asia. Of course, if we look at the reality in the world around us, what strikes even the most distant observer is our elusive quest for South Asian cooperation. SAARC was established in 1985. It is more than 30 years since then. Yet, the progress has been far, far less than modest. As Dr. Nagesh Kumar pointed out, intra-regional trade is just about 1/20th of South Asia's global trade. And here we are thinking simply of trade in goods, which is a tiny fraction of our total trade. Cross-border investments or cross-border movements of people that are an integral part of economic cooperation are almost altogether absent. Now, this is a sharp contrast, not simply with the rest of Asia, which is in partnership and cooperation within the continent and the rest of the world, but indeed it is in sharp contrast with the growing engagement of South Asian countries with the world economy. The original idea of cooperation was to simply capture gains from trade. But there is so much more now, 3 decades later, that we need to think about, because there are economic transactions in investment, services, technology, people, ideas, and what we call the soft world. The possibilities of cooperation is large. Now, I never tire of the example that I cite on what we can learn from Europe about how to get away from political contradictions and conflicts that are embedded in history. It is worth remembering that 6 countries in Western Europe that fought the most bitter war, where millions of people died, signed the Treaty of Rome in 1957, just 12 years after the end of World War II, to establish the beginnings of a Europe which evolved through successive stages of economic integration into the European Union and created a single market. It was a project, may I say, in which the desire for political peace matched the quest for economic prosperity in getting together. Now,